At 82, I'd hoped for warmth, not warnings. But when I asked to stay for Christmas, my daughter smiled through the phone and said those 7 words that froze my spine. "It's a family-only thing this year. Dad, I gave them everything, paid off their house, raised their child. When my wife died, I didn't ask for much, just a little space at the table during the holidays. But what they gave me instead lit the slowest, burning revenge I'd ever planned. My name is Walter Madsen, and I've lived long enough to know when a door is being shut in my face." The call came on a Tuesday evening in early December, just as the Ohio winter was settling its gray blanket over everything. I'd been sitting in my 1-bedroom apartment, the same leather recliner I'd salvaged from the house I'd sold 5 years ago, when my phone rang. "Hi, Dad?" Melissa's voice came through, bright and busy as always. I could hear the clatter of dishes in the background, the distant hum of her dishwasher, sounds of the house I'd helped purchase. "Hello, sweetheart," I said, already feeling the familiar ache that came with hearing her voice these days. It had been 3 weeks since our last call. "How's everyone?" "Oh, crazy busy. Brad's working on some big project, and Eliza's got finals coming up." The casual dismissal in her tone wasn't new, but it still stung. "What's up?" I cleared my throat, gripping the phone tighter than necessary. "I was thinking about Christmas. I'd like to come stay with you all this year. It's been 5 years since Mom passed. And I thought, oh, Dad." The shift in her voice was immediate, that careful tone she used when delivering bad news to clients at a real estate firm. "About that, we're actually doing something different this year." "Different? It's a family-only thing this year. Dad." The words hung in the air between us, carried across the 800 miles from Salt Lake City to my small corner of Columbus. Family only. As if I were some distant acquaintance who'd overstepped by asking for an invitation. "I see," I managed, though I didn't see at all. "You understand, right? Brad's parents are coming, and his sister with her kids. The house will be packed. Maybe next year." Next year. Always next year. Just like it had been maybe next visit when I'd offered to help with Eliza's school projects. Or we'll see when I'd suggested taking my granddaughter to the Science Museum during my last trip out. "Of course," I heard myself saying, the words automatic after decades of avoiding conflict. "I understand." "Great, I knew you would. Oh, I've got to run. Showing a house in 20 minutes. We'll talk soon, okay? Love you." The line went dead before I could respond. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the silence. Through my apartment window, I could see the house across the street, lit up with Christmas decorations already. A family of 4 lived there, parents and 2 teenagers. I'd watched them grow up these past 5 years, watched them throw footballs in the yard, celebrate graduations, load up their car for vacations. I set the phone down carefully on the side table, next to the framed photo of Margaret and me on our 40th anniversary. She would have known what to say, how to bridge this growing gulf between Melissa and me. But Margaret was gone, and I was just an old man in a recliner, no longer considered family enough for family gatherings. The irony wasn't lost on me. That house in Salt Lake City, the one two-packed to accommodate one elderly father, I'd paid off the mortgage when Melissa and Brad were drowning in debt 8 years ago. The dining room where they'd gather for Christmas dinner, I'd spent 3 months helping Brad renovate it. The guest room that apparently had no space for me, I'd painted those walls myself, bad back and all. But none of that mattered now. I was 82 years old, widowed, and had just been politely uninvited from Christmas by my only child. The house felt colder suddenly. Despite the furnace humming steadily, I pulled the Afghan Margaret had knitted tighter around my shoulders and stared at the phone, wondering when exactly I'd become an obligation instead of a father. The warning signs had been there all along. I realized, like cracks in a foundation you don't notice until the walls start to shift. After Margaret died, I'd been too lost in grief to see them clearly. Now, sitting in my apartment with December's early darkness pressing against the windows. I let myself remember. It started with the house, our house, mine and Margaret's, a 4-bedroom colonial we'd raised Melissa in. 6 months after the funeral, Melissa had flown in from Salt Lake City, all concern and practicality. "Dad, this place is too big for you," she'd said, walking through rooms that still smelled like Margaret's lavender sachets. "And the maintenance, why don't you sell it? You could get a nice apartment, something manageable." What she didn't say, but I heard anyway, something that would free up capital. I'd agreed because the house felt empty without Margaret, because climbing those stairs reminded me of all the times I'd helped her up them in her final months. The sale went quickly. Melissa handled everything with her real estate contacts. The profit was substantial. "I want to invest in your future," I'd told her over dinner that night, still dizzy from signing papers. "Take half for the down payment on a bigger house. For Eliza." She'd cried then, hugged me tight. "Oh, Dad, are you sure?" I was sure. What else did I have to spend it on? Then came Brad's MBA. 2 years of night school while working full-time had burned him out. If only I could focus on the degree, he'd mentioned during one visit, not quite meeting my eyes. So I wrote another check, $60,000 for tuition, plus living expenses so he could quit his job. For the family. I'd said, an investment in your future. The gratitude had been effusive then. Phone calls every week, photos of Brad at graduation, promises that this would change everything for them. And it had. Brad landed a corporate job. They bought the new house, the one I'd helped with the down payment. They needed furniture, landscaping, a new car when theirs broke down. Each time, I opened my wallet. What else was a father for? The daily routines came next. 3 years of driving Eliza to school every morning at 7 sharp because Melissa had early showings, and Brad left for work at 6. I'd moved to Columbus by then, to the apartment, to be closer to them. 5 days a week. I'd make the 20-minute drive, arrive at 6:45, make Eliza breakfast while she got ready. "You're a lifesaver, Dad," Melissa would say, rushing past me to grab her coffee. "I don't know what we'd do without you." But then Brad's job became more secure. Melissa's real estate business took off, and suddenly they didn't need me for the morning routine anymore. The calls grew less frequent. Sunday dinners became monthly, then every other month, then just holidays. "We're just so busy," Melissa would explain. "You understand." I understood. I understood that I'd gone from father to banker to babysitter to burden. The Christmas card arrived last week, the final clue I'd been too blind to see. It came from Doris Chen, our old neighbor from the Colonial. "Dear Walter," she'd written in her spidery handwriting. "Harold and I were so excited to hear about Melissa's lake house. She mentioned at the closing that it was a gift from her father. How generous of you. You must be so proud. Hope you're enjoying your retirement." Lake house, I set down the card with trembling hands. I'd never bought Melissa a lake house. I'd never even discussed buying property with her. But there it was, in Doris's careful script, a gift from her father. I pulled out my laptop, fingers clumsy on the keyboard, and searched property records for Salt Lake City. It took some digging, but I found it. A cabin on Bear Lake, purchased 3 months ago. The buyer's name was listed as Madsen Family Trust. I didn't have a family trust. My hands were steady now, the trembling replaced by something colder. I reached for my phone and scrolled through messages from Melissa. There, 2 months ago, a text I'd barely glanced at. "Dad, need you to sign some routine financial planning documents. Sending them over." I'd signed them, of course. Trusted her. She was my daughter. But now, uninvited from Christmas in the house I'd helped buy, I finally understood. I wasn't family anymore. I was a resource to be managed, a well to be drained, an old man to be kept at distance until the next withdrawal was needed. The funny thing about being a financial director for 40 years, you learn that the best time to audit the books is when someone thinks you're not paying attention. I closed the laptop and reached for my phone. not to call Melissa. That bridge was already burning. Instead, I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I wanted. Richardson and Associates, the law firm I'd kept on retainer since my corporate days. It was time to review some documents of my own. The text came at 11:15 p.m. on a Wednesday, 2 weeks after the family-only phone call. The sender was listed simply as E, but I knew it was Eliza. She'd programmed her number that way in my phone herself, said it was more mysterious. "Grandpa, can I call you? Please don't tell Mom." I was already reaching for my glasses, squinting at the screen to make sure I'd read it correctly. In 2 years, Eliza had never texted me directly. Melissa had always been the gatekeeper, scheduling our interactions like business appointments. "Of course, sweetheart," I typed back, my arthritis making the process slower than I'd like. "Call any time." The phone rang within seconds. "Grandpa?" Her voice was quiet, cautious. I could picture her huddled in her room, probably with a towel stuffed under the door to muffle sound. "I'm sorry to bother you so late." "You're never a bother," I said, meaning it. "What's wrong?" There was a pause. The kind teenagers make when they're deciding how much truth to share with adults. "I heard Mom and Dad talking about you tonight, about your stuff." "My stuff?" "Yeah, Mom was on the phone with someone about clearing out Dad's assets, and something about how you to need much at your age. She mentioned a lake house and some other property. Dad told her to keep her voice down, but..." I gripped the phone tighter. "What else did you hear?" "She said something about power of attorney and how you'd already signed some papers. Grandpa, are you sick? Is that why they won't let you come for Christmas?" The concern in her voice nearly broke me. 15 years old, and she was the only one worried about my health rather than my bank account. "I'm not sick, honey, just old, apparently." "That's what I thought," she said, and I could hear the frown in her voice. "Because you seemed fine when I saw you at Thanksgiving last year. But Mom's been acting weird lately. She keeps having meetings with some lawyer guy, and there are all these papers in Dad's office about trusts and estates." "Eliza," I said carefully, "I need you to understand something. What you're telling me is very important, but I don't want you to feel like you're betraying your parents." "I'm not betraying anyone," she said fiercely. "They're the ones being weird and secretive and mean. They didn't even let me call you on your birthday last month. Mom said you were probably busy." "My birthday? I'd spent it alone, watching Jeopardy and eating Chinese takeout." Melissa had sent a card, one of those generic ones from the grocery store, with just her name signed at the bottom. "Grandpa, there's something else," Eliza continued. "Remember that cabin you bought them? The one on Bear Lake?" My blood chilled. I remember hearing about it. "Well, Mom's been talking about selling it. She says the market is hot right now and they could make a killing. But here's the weird part. She keeps saying they need to do it before you complicate things." "Before I complicate things?" As if wanting to spend Christmas with my family was a complication. "Did she mention anything else about my assets?" I chose the word carefully. "Just that there's someplace in Florida. She found some old deed or something in her files. She seemed really excited about it." "The Florida property?" A small condo in Clearwater that Margaret and I had bought in the 80s as an investment. I'd forgotten Melissa even knew about it. We'd used it maybe twice. Kept meaning to sell it, but never got around to it. After Margaret died, I'd barely thought about it. "Eliza, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay. Do you trust me?" "More than anyone," she said without hesitation. "You're the only one who actually listens to me. Mom and Dad are always too busy or distracted. You're the one who taught me chess, who came to my science fairs, who actually cares about my photography. Then I need you to know that whatever happens in the next few weeks, I'm doing it because I love you. Things might get complicated with your parents, but..." "Grandpa," she interrupted, "are you going to be okay? They're not trying to put you in a home or something, are they?" The fear in her voice told me she'd overheard more than she was saying. "I'm going to be fine," I assured her, But Eliza, I may need to make some changes to protect myself and ensure you're taken care of. Can you keep this conversation between us for now? Yes, but protect yourself from what? From my own daughter. I thought but didn't say. Just some financial matters that need sorting out. Adult stuff. Boring. Grandpa, she said quietly, I know Mom hasn't been very nice to you lately. I'm sorry about Christmas. If it were up to me... I know, sweetheart. I love you, Grandpa. Whatever Mom's planning, whatever's going on, just don't let them make you disappear, okay? You're the only real family I've got. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, processing what I'd learned. The lake house was real, the Florida property was in play, and my daughter was actively working to clear out my assets before I could complicate things. But more than that, I'd learned something else. I wasn't going to fight this battle alone. Eliza, whether she knew it or not, had just shown me exactly what I needed to protect and what I stood to lose if I didn't act fast. I reached for my laptop and began making a list. Bank accounts, properties, investments, everything Melissa might think she had access to, and everything she didn't know about. It was past midnight when I finally closed the computer. But I wasn't tired. For the first time since that family-only phone call, I felt something other than hurt. I felt prepared. The offices of Richardson and Associates hadn't changed much in 20 years. Same mahogany panels, same leather chairs that creaked when you sat down. Same faint smell of old books and expensive coffee. Tom Richardson himself was grayer now, but his handshake was still firm when he greeted me at 9 sharp Monday morning. Walter, he said, gesturing me into his private office. When you called, you sounded concerned. That's one word for it. I settled into the chair across from his desk, placing my folder of documents between us. I need you to review some papers I signed recently, and I need to make some changes to my estate planning. Tom's eyebrows rose slightly, but he simply nodded and opened the folder. I watched his expression shift from professional interest to barely concealed alarm as he read through the documents Melissa had sent me to sign. Walter, he said slowly, setting down the papers. Do you understand what you signed here? I thought I was signing routine financial planning documents. That's what my daughter told me. These aren't routine. He picked up one page, holding it like it might bite. This is a comprehensive power of attorney. It gives Melissa complete control over all your financial decisions, effective immediately. She can sell property, access accounts, make investments, all without your consent or knowledge. The room felt suddenly cold. All of them. Every document here expands her control. This one, he tapped another page, creates a family trust with her as the sole trustee. This one transfers your Florida condo into that trust. And this... Christ. Walter, this is a healthcare directive that gives her the power to make medical decisions for you, including involuntary commitment to a care facility. I sat back, the full weight of my daughter's betrayal settling on my shoulders. Can we undo it? We can, but we need to act fast. The longer these documents stand, the more damage she can do. Has she acted on any of these powers yet? She bought a lake house, put it in a Madsen family trust that I apparently funded without knowing it. Tom's face darkened. We need to freeze everything immediately. I'll file papers today to revoke the power of attorney and challenge the trust formation. But Walter, I have to ask, is there any chance Melissa genuinely believes you're becoming incapacitated? Any medical issues that might support her position? My last physical was 6 months ago, I said firmly. Blood pressure managed, cholesterol good, mental faculties intact, doctor. Morrison gave me a clean bill of health. I still do the crossword in pen. Tom. Good. Get a letter from Doctor Morrison confirming your mental competency. We'll need it. He pulled out a legal pad and began writing. Now, let's talk about protecting what's left. What assets does Melissa not know about? I smiled for the first time in weeks. My retirement accounts from Stronghold Industries, they're not in my name. They're in the company pension trust. She'd need board approval to touch those. And I still golf with half the board. There's also a safety deposit box she doesn't know about, with Margaret's jewelry and some bearer bonds. Excellent. We'll structure a new trust. A real one this time. But I recommend something unusual. He leaned forward. Make your granddaughter, Eliza, the primary beneficiary, with very specific conditions. What kind of conditions? The kind that protect both of you. Melissa and Brad get nothing if they attempt to challenge your mental capacity, force you into care, or continue their current behavior. But if they treat you with respect, maintain regular contact, include you in family events, then they can receive a modest inheritance. Carrot and stick, I murmured. Exactly. But the bulk goes to Eliza, in a trust that Melissa can't touch. I'll structure it so the money is available for education, housing, starting a business, but protected from her parents' interference. Can we add something else? I thought of Eliza's late-night call, her fear that I'd disappear. I want to establish a communication requirement, regular visits or calls with Eliza, regardless of her parents' wishes. We can make that a condition of the trust. If they interfere with your relationship with your granddaughter, they forfeit everything. Tom made another note. What about the lake house? Can we get it back? If she used your money without authorization? Absolutely. We'll demand either the return of the property or full restitution. Given that she's a real estate agent, she knew exactly what she was doing. No judge will look kindly on that. I thought about Melissa as a child, how she'd crawl into my lap after scraped knees and bad dreams. When had that trusting little girl become someone who would steal from her own father? There's one more thing. I said, I want to record all our interactions from now on. Every phone call, every meeting. Legal in Ohio with single-party consent. Right? It is. Smart thinking. Tom set down his pen and looked at me seriously. Walter, this is going to get ugly. Melissa won't go quietly when she realizes what you're doing. Are you prepared for that? She decided I wasn't family, I said quietly. She made that clear. Now I'm just protecting myself from a hostile party who happens to share my DNA. Then let's get started. I'll have the revocation papers ready by this afternoon. We'll file them immediately and send Melissa formal notice that her power of attorney is terminated. We'll also demand an accounting of all actions taken under these documents. What about Christmas? I asked. She made it clear I'm not welcome. Tom smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Oh, I think you should definitely attend Christmas dinner. In fact, I insist on it. Nothing says family gathering quite like serving legal papers over dessert. As I left his office an hour later, plans in motion and protections in place, I felt something I hadn't experienced since Margaret died. Control. Melissa thought she'd outmaneuvered a feeble old man. She was about to learn that 40 years in corporate finance had taught me more about strategic planning than she'd ever picked up selling houses. The game had changed, and this time, I was the one making the rules. Christmas Eve arrived with a fresh snowfall that made Salt Lake City look like a postcard. I stood outside Melissa's house at exactly 6:30 p.m., briefcase in one hand, a bottle of wine in the other. Through the windows, I could see the warm glow of lights, hear the muffled sound of laughter. Family only. Indeed. Beside me stood Tom Richardson in his best suit, and next to him, Jennifer Walsh, a notary public who specialized in fraud cases. We made an odd trio on that festive doorstep. 3 professionals about to crash a family dinner. I rang the doorbell. The door opened to Brad's confused face. Walter, we weren't... His eyes landed on Tom and Jennifer, and his expression shifted from confusion to alarm. What's going on? Merry Christmas. Brad, I said pleasantly. I brought wine and some friends. May we come in? Melissa, he called over his shoulder, backing away from the door. We stepped inside without waiting for permission. The house smelled like roast turkey and pine needles. In the living room, I could see Brad's parents on the sofa, his sister's children playing with new toys. And there was Melissa, emerging from the kitchen with flour still on her apron, her face cycling through surprise, anger, and forced composure. "Dad, what are you doing here? I told you that it was family only." I finished. "Yes, I remember. But you see, I had some family business to discuss. And I thought, what better time than Christmas?" Eliza appeared at the top of the stairs, eyes widening when she saw me. I gave her a small wink. "Perhaps we could speak privately?" Melissa suggested, her real estate agent smile plastered on but not reaching her eyes. "No need for privacy. We're all family here, aren't we?" I set the wine on the entry table and opened my briefcase. "Tom, would you do the honors?" Tom stepped forward. "Mrs. Bradley, I'm Thomas Richardson, representing your father. I'm here to serve you with notice that all powers of attorney previously granted to you have been revoked, effective immediately." The room went silent except for the sound of wrapping paper crackling under a child's foot. Melissa's face had gone pale. "This is ridiculous. Dad, you're clearly not well. Coming here with lawyers on Christmas Eve." "I also have a letter from Dr. Morrison," I interrupted, pulling out the document. "Dated last week, confirming my excellent mental and physical health. Would you like me to read it aloud for the family?" Brad's mother spoke up nervously. "Perhaps we should give you some privacy." "No, please stay," I said warmly. "After all, you should know who you're having Christmas dinner with. Melissa, would you like to tell them about the lake house you bought with my money? Or should I?" "Dad, stop!" Melissa's voice had dropped to a hiss. "You're embarrassing yourself." "Am I?" I turned to address the room. 3 months ago, my daughter used a fraudulent power of attorney to purchase a vacation property with my funds. Without my knowledge, without my consent. She told the neighbors it was a gift from me. Jennifer stepped forward with her notary seal visible. "I have authenticated all the documentation. The property transfer was illegal." Brad had sunk into a chair, his face gray. His parents were exchanging horrified looks. Eliza had come halfway down the stairs, watching everything with wide eyes. "But that's not all," I continued, my voice steady despite the way my heart was racing. "She also attempted to transfer my Florida property into a trust she controls. She prepared documents that would allow her to commit me to a care facility against my will, all while telling me they were routine financial planning papers." "You didn't even read them," Melissa exploded. "You just signed, like you always do." "Because I trusted my daughter," I said quietly. "My mistake." Tom pulled out more papers. "We're demanding full restitution for the lake house, plus damages for breach of fiduciary duty. We're also requiring a full accounting of all financial transactions conducted under the fraudulent documents." "This is insane," Melissa said, but her voice was shaking now. "I was trying to help you. You're 82 years old, living alone." "Living alone because you told me I wasn't welcome here," I shot back. "Not family enough for Christmas dinner, but family enough to steal from?" "I didn't steal. What else would you call taking $600,000 without permission?" The number hung in the air. Brad's sister gathered her children and ushered them into another room. Brad's father stood up, his face stern. "Melissa, is this true?" She turned on him. "You don't understand. He was going to waste it all anyway, sitting on properties that could be invested, holding on to money that could secure Eliza's future." "My money," I said firmly. "My choice how to spend it. And for the record, I've already secured Eliza's future, Tom." Tom pulled out the final document. "Mr. Madsen has established an education and life trust for Eliza Madsen Bradley, to be administered by Richardson and Associates. Your daughter's education, housing, and business ventures will be fully funded, but under strict conditions that prevent parental interference." Eliza gasped from the stairs. "Grandpa?" "Merry Christmas, sweetheart," I said, smiling at her for the first time since I'd arrived. Your parents can't touch a penny of it. It's yours, protected and secured. You can't do this, Melissa said, but she was deflating now, the fight going out of her. I can and I have. I closed the briefcase with a snap. You have 30 days to return the lake house proceeds or face criminal charges for elder financial abuse. Tom will be in touch about the details. I turned to go, then paused. Oh, and Melissa, your power of attorney is revoked, but I've granted limited medical power of attorney to Eliza when she turns 18. If anyone's going to make decisions about my care, it'll be someone who actually considers me family. The last thing I saw before leaving was Eliza running down the stairs toward me, tears streaming down her face. Grandpa, wait! I stopped, opening my arms as she crashed into them. I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart, I whispered into her hair. Not anymore. Behind her, Melissa stood frozen, surrounded by the ruins of her perfect Christmas dinner, finally understanding that some things, once broken, can never be repaired. The silence that followed Eliza's embrace was deafening. I held my granddaughter as she sobbed into my coat, aware of every pair of eyes in the room. Brad's parents had backed against the wall like they were trying to disappear. His sister peered from the kitchen doorway, her children hidden behind her. Eliza, get away from him, Melissa said, her voice sharp with desperation. He's clearly having some kind of breakdown. No. Eliza pulled back from me but kept hold of my hand. You're the one who's lying. I heard you. Mom, all those phone calls about Grandpa's money. Tom cleared his throat. Perhaps we should continue with the documentation. Walter. I nodded, gently squeezing Eliza's hand before releasing it. From my briefcase. I pulled out a manila folder thick with papers. Since we're laying everything on the table, let's be thorough. Jennifer, the notary, set up her supplies on Melissa's dining room table, the same table where I'd shared countless family dinners. The irony wasn't lost on me. First, I said, pulling out a bank statement. Let's discuss the $150,000 transferred from my checking account to yours over the past 5 years. Melissa, always just under $10,000 to avoid federal reporting requirements. Interesting pattern. Brad finally found his voice. That was for... I have the receipts. I cut him off, producing them. Vacations to Cabo, Aspen, Hawaii, a BMW lease. Private school tuition for Eliza, which I was already paying directly to the school. So that was double dipping. Jewelry purchases. Shall I continue? Tom took over, his courtroom voice filling the space. We've documented over $400,000 in unauthorized transfers and purchases, not including the lake house. Mrs. Bradley used her father's credit cards for personal expenses, opened joint accounts without his knowledge, and even attempted to name herself beneficiary on his life insurance policies. Everything we did was for family, Melissa shrieked. For our future. Your future, I corrected. Let me show you something else. I pulled out photocopies of text messages, screenshots Eliza had bravely sent me. Your own words. Melissa, Dad's too old to know what's happening. We need to move fast before he catches on. The lawyer says if we can prove cognitive decline, we get everything. Brad's mother gasped. His father shook his head in disgust. How did you... Melissa spun toward Eliza. You little traitor! Don't you dare. I stepped between them. She's the only honest person in this family. Tom continued relentlessly. We also have recordings of several phone conversations where Mrs. Bradley discussed plans to have Mr. Madsen declared incompetent. She consulted with 3 different elder care facilities about involuntary commitment procedures. I pulled out my phone, hitting play on a saved voicemail. Melissa's voice filled the room. Hi, Sunshine Manor. I'm inquiring about your memory care unit. My father is becoming difficult. What's your process for admission when the patient doesn't consent? Turn it off, Melissa whispered. But I played another... Yes, Dr. Hartley? My father is 82, and I'm concerned about his judgment. He's giving away money irresponsibly. What? No, no actual symptoms, but surely at his age. Enough. Brad stood up. We get it. Do you? I asked. Do you really understand what you've done? I paid off this house. I funded your MBA. I drove your daughter to school for 3 years. And this is how you repay me? By plotting to lock me away and steal everything Margaret and I built? Jennifer spoke up, her professional voice cutting through the emotion. Mr. Madsen has also provided documentation of a systematic pattern of elder financial abuse. The district attorney's office will be very interested in this case. Criminal charges? Brad went paler. Melissa, you said... Shut up! She snapped at him. I pulled out the final document. This is a cease and desist order. You are forbidden from accessing any of my accounts, properties, or financial instruments. Any attempt to do so will result in immediate criminal prosecution. And this, Tom added, producing another paper, is a restraining order. Mrs. Bradley is prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Mr. Madsen without his explicit consent and prohibited from any attempts to discuss his medical care with healthcare providers. You're destroying our family, Melissa screamed. No, I said quietly. You destroyed it the moment you decided I was just a wallet to be emptied, the moment you told me I wasn't family enough for Christmas dinner but was family enough to rob blind. Eliza stepped forward, her young face set with determination. I'm going with Grandpa. You're not going anywhere. Melissa said. Actually, Tom interjected. Eliza is 15. In Utah, her preference carries significant weight in custody matters. If she chooses to live with her grandfather, and given the evidence of financial crimes committed by her parents. I've already filed for temporary guardianship, I said. Given the circumstances, I expect it to be granted. The room erupted, Melissa lunging forward, Brad trying to hold her back, his parents shouting, the children in the other room starting to cry. Through it all, Eliza stood beside me, trembling but resolute. One more thing, I said, raising my voice above the chaos. The trust fund for Eliza. It has very specific morality clauses. Any attempt to manipulate, coerce, or alienate her from me results in immediate disinheritance for both of you. However, if you rebuild a genuine relationship with me, not for money, but as family, there's a possibility of reconciliation. Get out, Melissa said, her voice broken. Get out of my house? The house I paid for, I asked. Gladly, Eliza. Do you want to pack a bag? She nodded and ran upstairs. As we waited, I looked at my daughter one last time. The little girl who used to dance on my feet was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. I loved you more than life itself, I told her. But you taught me something valuable. Family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty. And you have none. When Eliza returned with her backpack, we left together, Tom and Jennifer flanking us like an honor guard. Behind us, Melissa's perfect Christmas lay in ruins. The truth scattered across her dining room table like wrapping paper after the gifts have all been opened. Some presents, once unwrapped, can never be returned. The hotel suite was quiet, except for the soft sound of Eliza crying into her pillow. We'd checked into the Grand America in downtown Salt Lake City. I wanted somewhere safe and comfortable while we sorted through the wreckage of Christmas Eve. Tom and Jennifer had left after ensuring we were settled, promising to file all necessary paperwork first thing in the morning. I sat on the edge of Eliza's bed, my hand resting gently on her shoulder. I'm sorry you had to see all that, sweetheart. She rolled over, her face streaked with tears. Are they going to jail? I don't know, I answered honestly. That depends on what they do next. My phone buzzed, the 20th time in the past hour. Melissa again. I let it go to voicemail. Grandpa, Eliza said quietly. What happens now? Now, we establish the new rules. I moved to the suite sitting area. gesturing for her to join me. "Would you like some hot chocolate? The room service here is excellent." She managed a small smile. "Mom never lets me have hot chocolate after 6 p.m. "Well, your mother isn't here," I called room service, ordering 2 hot chocolates with extra marshmallows and some sandwiches. Neither of us had eaten dinner. While we waited, I pulled out the documents Tom had prepared. "I want to explain something to you. Eliza, what I did tonight, what I'm doing, it's not about revenge." "It looked like revenge," she said, curling up in the armchair across from me. "Maybe a little," I admitted. "But mostly, it's about protection and consequences." The room service arrived, and we sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping our drinks. Outside, snow continued to fall over the city lights. "Your trust fund," I began, "will ensure you never have to depend on anyone the way I depended on my trust in your mother. You'll have money for college, graduate school if you want it, starting a business, buying a home. But there are conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "You have to maintain your grades. You have to either work or volunteer 20 hours a week during summers. You can't access the principal until you're 25, except for education and approved investments. And..." I paused, meeting her eyes. "You have to promise me something." "What?" "Never let money become more important than people. Never let greed poison your relationships the way it poisoned your mother's." She nodded solemnly. "I promise." My phone rang again. This time, it was Brad. I considered declining, but decided to answer. "Yes?" "Walter, please." His voice was strained. "Melissa's having a complete breakdown. She's talking about doing something drastic. Can we please talk, work something out?" "Put her on speaker." I said, "Eliza deserves to hear this too." There was a pause. Then Melissa's voice, raw and desperate. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I panicked. After Mom died, you seemed so lost, and I thought..." "You thought you'd help yourself to my money while I was grieving?" "No, I mean, yes, but..." She was sobbing now. "I was trying to secure our future, Eliza's future. The economy is uncertain. Brad's job isn't as stable as it seems. And you were just sitting on all those assets." "My assets," I interrupted, "which I worked 40 years to accumulate, which your mother and I sacrificed to build." I know. But Dad, please, don't do this. Don't take Eliza. Don't file charges. We can work this out. We're family." I felt Eliza's hand slip into mine. She squeezed gently. "Here are my terms," I said, my voice steady. "They are non-negotiable. First, you return every penny you took, including the lake house money, within 30 days. Second, you sign a legal document acknowledging the theft and agreeing to never attempt to access my finances again. Third, you attend weekly family therapy with a counselor I choose, for a minimum of 1 year." "Okay, yes, anything..." I'm not finished. Fourth, you respect Eliza's choice to live where she feels safe. If that's with me, you don't fight it. Fifth, you resign from any positions where you have access to client finances. I won't have you doing to others what you tried to do to me. My real estate license? Dad, that's my career. You should have thought of that before you committed fraud. And finally, you write a letter to every family member and friend you've lied to about me, admitting the truth. No more painting me as a senile old man who needs protecting. Silence on the other end. "Those are the terms," I continued. "Accept them all, follow through completely, and I'll consider not pressing criminal charges. I'll even continue paying for family therapy. But if you violate even one condition, or if you ever again try to manipulate me or Eliza, I'll pursue prosecution to the full extent of the law. Can I at least see Eliza?" I looked at my granddaughter. She shook her head slightly. "Not yet," I said. "Maybe after you've shown real change through therapy. Eliza will decide when she's ready." "This is kidnapping!" Melissa suddenly screamed. You can't just take her. I have a notarized statement from Eliza expressing her preference. I said calmly, I have evidence of financial crimes that would make any judge question your fitness as parents, and I have the resources to ensure this is done legally. This isn't kidnapping, Melissa. This is consequence. Brad's voice came through. We'll think about your terms. You have 24 hours to decide. I said, after that, I file criminal charges. Good night. I hung up and turned off my phone. Eliza was staring at her hot chocolate, tears dropping into the marshmallows. Do you think she ever loved me? Or was I just another asset to manage? I pulled her into a hug. She loves you in her broken way, but sometimes love gets twisted by greed and fear until it becomes something else, something harmful. What if they don't agree to your terms? Then we move forward without them. I'll hire the best lawyers, ensure you're protected, and we'll build a new kind of family. Just you and me. And maybe Tom? She said with a watery smile. He was kind of cool for a lawyer. I laughed, the first real laugh I'd had in weeks. Maybe Tom for Sunday dinners. As the snow continued to fall outside, we sat together in the warm suite. 2 generations bound by trust instead of blood, by choice instead of obligation. It wasn't the Christmas either of us had planned, but perhaps it was the one we needed. The conditions were set. The choice was Melissa's now. But either way, Eliza and I would be okay. We had each other, and as I'd learned the hard way, that was the only family that truly mattered. A week later, I sat at my kitchen table in Columbus, sorting through mail. The apartment felt different now, warmer somehow, with Eliza's photography already decorating the walls and her laughter filling spaces that had been silent for too long. She was at her new school, the one I'd enrolled her in after filing for emergency custody. The judge, after reviewing the evidence Tom presented, had granted it without hesitation. The doorbell rang at precisely 2 p.m. I knew who it would be before I opened it. The courier handed me a thick manila envelope. Walter Madsen, this requires your signature. I signed and brought the envelope inside, already knowing what it contained. Inside were 3 letters, one from Melissa, one from Brad, and one typed on legal letterhead. I opened the legal document first. It was signed by both Melissa and Brad, acknowledging the theft of funds, agreeing to full restitution, and accepting all my conditions without modification. Attached was a cashier's check for the full amount of the lake house sale, plus interest. Brad's letter was brief. I'm sorry I let it go this far. I saw what was happening but was too weak to stop it. You deserve better from both of us. I've already started therapy on my own. Maybe someday I can earn the right to be in Eliza's life again. Melissa's letter was longer, filled with the kind of self-justification I'd expected. But at the end, something surprising. I became someone I don't recognize. Mom would be ashamed. I'm entering intensive therapy next week. Not for the money or to get Eliza back, but because I need to understand how I became this person. I'm sorry, Dad, for all of it. I set the letters aside and walked to the window. The same family across the street was playing in their yard. The parents watching their teenagers throw snowballs. Normal, happy, intact. My phone buzzed. A text from Eliza. Made a friend today. Her name's Sarah. Can she come over after school? Of course, I typed back. I'll make cookies. Another buzz. This time, an email from my financial advisor confirming that all the fraudulent transactions had been reversed, the accounts secured with new protections. The Florida property was safely back in my name. The financial bleeding had stopped. But it was the third notification that made me pause. A voicemail from my old neighbor. Doris. Walter, I heard about what happened with Melissa. I'm so sorry, but I wanted you to know Harold and I are having our New Year's Eve party, same as always. You're invited, and bring that granddaughter of yours. It's time you started living again instead of just existing. Living instead of existing. Margaret would have liked that. I looked at the letters one more time. 3 people who had tried to erase me from my own life. to reduce me to nothing more than a bank account to be drained. They'd failed, but the victory felt hollow. I'd won back my money, secured Eliza's future, protected myself from further harm, but I'd lost my daughter in the process. Or maybe I'd lost her years ago, and this was just the final acknowledgement. The front door opened, and Eliza bounded in with her new friend. "Grandpa, this is Sarah. Sarah, this is my grandpa. He's teaching me about investing and makes the best grilled cheese sandwiches in Ohio." I smiled at the girls, already pulling out ingredients for cookies. This was my life now. Not the one I'd planned, but perhaps the one I needed. A 15-year-old granddaughter who chose me over comfort, who saw me as family when my own daughter couldn't. That evening, as Eliza did homework at the kitchen table, she looked up suddenly. "Grandpa, do you think Mom will ever really change?" I considered lying, offering false hope, but Eliza deserved truth. "I don't know, sweetheart. People can change, but they have to want it for themselves, not just to avoid consequences." "What about the trust fund? Will you really give them anything if they change?" "The conditions stand." I said, "If they genuinely reform, show real change over time, then yes, they'll receive something. Not what they tried to steal, but enough to know they weren't completely cast off." "You're nicer than I would be," she said, returning to her homework. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was just old enough to know that revenge, while satisfying in the moment, leaves you cold in the end. What mattered now wasn't punishing Melissa and Brad. It was building something better with Eliza. My phone sat silent on the counter. No more desperate calls. No more manipulative texts. The letters on the table represented surrender, but not reconciliation. That would take time, if it came at all. I picked up Melissa's letter one more time, reading her final words. "I know you probably won't open any future letters from me, so I'll just say this. Thank you for stopping me. Thank you for protecting Eliza. And thank you for showing me who I'd become before it was too late to change. Too late, maybe not, but trust, once shattered, could never be fully restored. It could only be rebuilt, piece by piece, into something different, something more cautious, more conditional, but perhaps eventually functional." I folded the letters and put them away. Somewhere in Salt Lake City, my daughter was beginning therapy, her husband was confronting his complicity, and their house, the one I'd paid for, echoed with the absence of their daughter's laughter. And here in Columbus, in a modest apartment that no one was trying to steal, an old man and his granddaughter were baking cookies, doing homework, and slowly learning that family isn't about blood or money or obligation. It's about choosing each other every single day, especially when it's hard. The revenge was complete. The money was recovered. The trust was secured. But the real victory? It was the sound of Eliza laughing with her friend, safe and protected, building a future that no one could steal. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. Sometimes it's simply living well without them, surrounded by people who see your worth beyond your wallet. And that's enough, more than enough. It's everything. Thank you for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Please leave a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Walter's situation? I look forward to reading your perspectives and experiences in the comments.